They say love is blind, but I wasn't just blind, I was deaf, mute, and utterly stupid. The man I married, the one I thought was my soulmate, my forever, he wasn't just living a double life. He was living triple, quadruple lives, and I was nothing more than a prop in his twisted game. By the time I discovered the truth, it was almost too late. Almost. But here's the thing about betrayal: it teaches you things about yourself you never wanted to know. It shows you how strong you can be when your entire world collapses. And sometimes, just sometimes, it gives you the perfect opportunity for revenge. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I married a monster disguised as Prince Charming. I met David at a charity gala in downtown Chicago. I was 28, working as a financial analyst at a prestigious firm, independent, confident, maybe a little too focused on my career. My friends always joked that I'd end up married to my laptop, but that night in September 2019, everything changed. He was standing by the bar, tall, distinguished, with salt and pepper hair that made him look like a younger George Clooney. When he smiled at me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Butterflies, real teenage crush butterflies. "You look like you're plotting to escape," he said, handing me a glass of champagne I hadn't asked for. "That obvious?" I laughed. "Only to someone who's thinking the same thing." David Chen, he extended his hand. Tech entrepreneur, reluctant philanthropist, and terrible at small talk. That was the beginning. We talked for 3 hours that night, hidden away in a corner while the party swirled around us. He was brilliant, funny, self-deprecating. He told me about his startup, a cybersecurity firm that protected small businesses from hackers. He built it from nothing after his own family's restaurant was nearly destroyed by a cyber attack. "My parents came here from Taiwan with nothing," he said, his eyes growing distant. "They built that restaurant with their bare hands. When hackers nearly took it all away, I swore I'd never let that happen to another family." I was hooked. Here was a man with purpose, with depth, who cared about more than just making money. He was passionate about protecting the vulnerable, about using technology for good. We started dating immediately. David was everything I dreamed of and more. He sent flowers to my office every Monday to make the week bearable. The cards always said, he remembered every little thing I told him. When I mentioned once that I missed my grandmother's apple pie, he spent an entire weekend learning to bake, presenting me with attempt after failed attempt until he got it perfect. My friends adored him. My parents, initially skeptical of the age gap, he was 38 to my 28, were won over within minutes of meeting him. Even my cynical brother Jake, who hated everyone I'd ever dated, pulled me aside at Thanksgiving to say, "This one's different. Sarah, don't screw it up." 6 months in, David took me to Paris. As we stood on the Pont Alexandre III at sunset, the Eiffel Tower glittering in the distance, he got down on one knee. "Sarah Mitchell," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "you've turned my black and white world into technicolor. I can't imagine a single day without you. Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, not too big, not too flashy, just elegant and timeless like him, like us. I said yes, of course. How could I not? I was living a fairy tale. We married a year later, in an intimate ceremony in Napa Valley. Just family and close friends. Exactly how I'd always dreamed. David cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. His vows were perfect. He talked about building a life together, about trust and partnership, about facing whatever challenges came our way as a team. "You saved me," he whispered, as we shared our first dance. "Before you, I was just going through the motions. Now I have a reason to be better." The first 2 years of marriage were blissful. We bought a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park. David's business was thriving. He'd just landed a major contract with the city. I'd been promoted to senior analyst. We talked about kids, about the future, about growing old together. He was the perfect husband. He cooked dinner when I worked late. He rubbed my feet while we watched Netflix. He still sent flowers every Monday. Still remembered every anniversary of every little moment, our first kiss, the first time I said I loved him, the first time we talked about marriage. But perfect is an illusion. And illusions, no matter how beautiful, always shatter eventually. The first sign something was wrong came on a Tuesday evening in March. I'd left work early with a migraine and came home to find David S.'s laptop open on the kitchen counter. He was in the shower. I could hear the water running upstairs. I wasn't snooping, I need you to understand that. I was just going to close it and plug it in to charge. But as I reached for it, a notification popped up. "Wire transfer confirmed. $50,000 to account ending in 4521. $50,000. That was a lot of money even for us. I frowned, wondering if it was a business expense, but something made me pause. The account name on the notification, it was just initials, KM. David and I had complete transparency about finances. We had joint accounts, shared everything. So why didn't I know about this transfer? I heard the shower turn off upstairs, my heart pounding. I quickly closed the laptop and started making dinner, pushing the unease aside. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a business thing he hadn't mentioned yet. Maybe it was a surprise for me. My birthday was coming up in a few months, but the doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things I'd overlooked before. Business trips that seemed to pop up suddenly, phone calls he'd taken the other room, speaking in hushed tones. The way he'd quickly close his laptop when I entered the room. You're being paranoid, I told myself. This is David, you're David, he loves you. But then came the credit card statement. We had separate cards for personal purchases just to keep things simple, we'd said. I never looked at his statements. There was no reason to, but that day the mail got mixed up. His statement ended up in my pile of papers. I wasn't going to look. Really, I wasn't. But as I went to put it on his desk, the envelope flap came loose. The statement partially slid out, and I saw it. A charge for $3,000 at a jewelry store. Tiffany's. My heart skipped. Was he planning something special for me? But then I saw the date 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, he hadn't given me any jewelry. I carefully put the statement on his desk, my mind racing. Maybe it was for a client. Maybe it was a gift for his mother's birthday. Maybe, but the maybes were adding up. That night, I watched him across the dinner table. Really watched him. The man I loved, the man I'd married, the man I thought I knew better than anyone in the world. He was talking about his day, animated and engaging as always. But for the first time, I wondered if I was watching a performance. Everything okay, babe? He asked, noticing my silence. You've barely touched your food. Just tired, I lied, forcing a smile. Long day at work. He reached across the table and took my hand. You work too hard. How about we take a vacation? Maybe Hawaii. We could leave next month. That sounds perfect, I said, squeezing his hand back, but inside something had shifted. The first crack had appeared in my perfect marriage. And once you see a crack, you can't unsee it. I became someone I didn't recognize. A detective in my own marriage. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop. I started paying attention to patterns. David's business trips always seemed to happen around the same dates each month, the 15th through the 17th. Always to San Francisco, he said. Always for the same client. One evening while he was at the gym, I did something I'd sworn I'd never do. I went through his home office. At first, everything seemed normal. Business documents, contracts, invoices. But then, tucked in the back of a filing cabinet, I found a folder labeled insurance. Inside were documents I didn't understand. Life insurance policies. But not just one or two, there were 5 different policies, and the beneficiary on all of them. Not me, not his parents. The beneficiary was listed as KM Trust, KM, the same initials from the wire transfer. My hands were shaking as I photographed the documents with my phone. Who was KM? What was this trust? And why did my husband have 5 life insurance policies I knew nothing about? I was so focused on the documents that I didn't hear the front door open, didn't hear his footsteps on the stairs. Sarah, what are you doing? I spun around to find David standing in the doorway, gym bag in hand, sweat still glistening on his forehead. His expression was unreadable. I was looking for our tax documents, I said, shoving the folder back into the cabinet. I couldn't remember where we kept them. He studied me for a long moment. Then his face softened. They're in the desk drawer, remember? Come on, let me help you. He walked over and opened the desk drawer, pulling out a clearly labeled folder. Here you go. Though why you're thinking about taxes in July is beyond me. I forced a laugh. You know me, always planning ahead. He kissed my forehead. That's why I love you, always so organized. But as he headed upstairs to shower, I caught something in his eyes. A flicker of ... what? Suspicion, concern, or was I imagining things? That night I lay awake beside him, listening to his steady breathing. The man next to me felt like a stranger. Who was he really? What was he hiding? The next morning, after David left for work, I called in sick. I had work to do. I started with the basics, Google searches, social media deep dives. But David Chen was a common name, and my David seemed to have a minimal online presence. His company website was professional but basic. His LinkedIn was sparse. New Facebook, new Instagram. I'm too old for that stuff, he'd always said, and I'd found it charming. Now it felt calculated. Then I had an idea. I called his office. Chen, cybersecurity. How may I direct your call? I hung up immediately, my heart racing. At least his company was real. But something felt off about the receptionist's voice. Too formal, too rehearsed. I drove to his office building, the gleaming high-rise downtown where he'd taken me once early in our relationship. I sat in my car across the street, watching, waiting. At noon, people streamed out for lunch. But no, David. I waited another hour. Still nothing. Finally, I worked up the courage to go inside. The directory in the lobby listed Chen Cybersecurity on the 15th floor. I took the elevator up, my palms sweating. The 15th floor was under construction. Plastic sheets covered everything. Dust motes dancing in the afternoon sunlight. There was no Chen Cybersecurity. There was nothing. I stood there in the empty hallway, my world tilting off its axis. If his office wasn't here, where did he go every day? What did he do? I made it back to my car before I threw up. That evening, I pretended everything was normal. I cooked his favorite meal, asked about his day, smiled and nodded as he told me about a difficult client meeting. All lies. Everything was lies. I might need to go to San Francisco next week, he said casually, cutting into his steak. The Morrison account is having issues when I asked, keeping my voice steady. Probably Tuesday through Thursday, the 15th through 17th. There it was, the pattern. I'll miss you, I said, reaching for his hand. He smiled, that perfect smile that used to make me melt. I'll miss you too, babe. Every second. As soon as he confirmed the trip, I started planning. If he was going to San Francisco, I'd follow him. It was time to find out who my husband really was. But first, I needed help. I couldn't do this alone anymore. The next day I called the one person I trusted completely, my brother Jake. I need to see you, I said as soon as he answered, and I need you to promise not to tell anyone. Not Mom, not Dad, not even Lisa. Sarah, what's wrong? You sound please. Jake, can you meet me at that coffee shop on Division, the one we used to go to in college? 2 hours later I sat across from my brother and told him everything. The wire transfer, the jewelry charge, the insurance policies, the fake office. I showed him the photos on my phone, watched his expression grow darker with each revelation. Jesus, Sarah, he said finally, this is serious, I know. No, I don't think you do. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. 5 life insurance policies. A fake office. This isn't just an affair. This is something else, something dangerous. That's why I need your help. I'm going to follow him to San Francisco. I need to know. Absolutely not. Jake's voice was firm. You're not going anywhere near him until we know what's going on. Jake, Sarah, listen to me. I have a friend, Marcus. He's a private investigator. Let me call him. Let's do this right. I wanted to argue. I wanted to handle this myself. But the fear in my brother's eyes stopped me. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was bigger than just a cheating husband. Okay, I said finally. Call your friend. But I was lying. I'd already booked my ticket to San Francisco. With or without help, I was going to uncover the truth about David Chen. The morning David left for his business trip, I kissed him goodbye at the door like always, wished him safe travels, told him I loved him. I love you too, he said, cupping my face in his hands. More than you know. 2 hours later I was at O'Hare Airport, baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses on. I'd told Jake I was staying put, promised to wait for the private investigator. Another lie to add to the growing pile. I kept my distance at the gate, watching David from behind a magazine. He was on his phone, speaking quietly, occasionally laughing. He looked relaxed, happy even. Not like a man heading to a stressful business meeting. The flight to San Francisco was torture. I'd purposely booked a seat at the back of the plane, while David was in first class. Every minute felt like an hour. When we landed, I let him deplane first, then followed at a distance. He got into a taxi. I got into the one behind it. Follow that cab, I told the driver, feeling ridiculous. This was my life now, a bad movie cliché. The taxi wound through the city, finally stopping at a small hotel in Pacific Heights. Not the kind of place a successful businessman would stay for client meetings. This was intimate, boutique, romantic. I paid my driver and found a cafe across the street with a view of the hotel entrance. Then I waited. An hour passed. 2. I was starting to think I'd made a terrible mistake when I saw her. She was beautiful in that effortless way that made other women feel inadequate. Long black hair, designer clothes, moving with the confidence of someone who'd never been rejected in her life. She walked into the hotel like she owned it. 20 minutes later, she emerged with David. They were holding hands. I watched my husband kiss another woman on the street. Not a quick peck. A real kiss. The kind of kiss that spoke of familiarity, of intimacy, of love. They got into a car together. A Mercedes, her car, I realized as she got into the driver's seat. I couldn't follow them this time. I could only watch as they drove away, my vision blurring with tears I refused to shed. Not yet, not here. I spent the rest of the day in that cafe, waiting. The barista probably thought I was insane, ordering coffee after coffee, barely touching any of them. Finally, as the sun was setting, they returned. This time, there was someone else with them, a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, with David's eyes and the woman's delicate features. A daughter. David had a daughter. The world tilted. I ran to the bathroom and was violently sick. When I came out, they were gone. But I had what I needed. Photos on my phone. Evidence of another life, another family. I flew back to Chicago that night, my mind reeling. How long had this been going on? Was our entire marriage a lie? Was I the other woman? When David came home 2 days later, I had to physically restrain myself from confronting him immediately. I needed more information first. So I smiled, asked about his trip, made dinner, made love to my husband while thinking about the woman in San Francisco, the little girl with his eyes. That weekend, while David played golf with clients, or so he said, Jake's investigator friend Marcus came to the house. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with kind eyes and a gentle manner that seemed at odds with his profession. Your brother filled me in on the basics, he said, settling onto my couch, but I need you to tell me everything, every detail, no matter how small. So I did. I showed him the photos from San Francisco, the insurance documents, everything I'd found. He took notes, asked questions, his expression growing more serious with each revelation. Mrs. Chen, sir, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you feel safe? Has David ever threatened you, hurt you? No, I said immediately. Never. He's never even raised his voice to me. Marcus nodded, but he didn't look reassured. I'm going to look into this, but I need you to be careful. Don't confront him. Don't let on that you know anything. Can you do that? Yes, I mean it, Sarah. Men who lead double lives, they can be unpredictable when cornered. After he left, I sat in my beautiful living room, in my beautiful house, with my beautiful life, and wondered how I'd been so blind. The signs had probably been there all along. I just hadn't wanted to see them. A week later, Marcus called. We need to meet, he said. Not at your house, somewhere public. We met at Union Station, surrounded by the bustle of travelers. Marcus looked tired, stressed. He pulled out a folder, thick with documents and photos. Sarah, what I'm about to tell you, it's going to be hard to hear. I know about the other woman, the daughter. It's more than that. He opened the folder. David Chen isn't his real name. It's David Kim. He's been married before, 3 times. 3 times. The words echoed in my head. His first wife died in a car accident 5 years into their marriage. She had a life insurance policy worth $2 million. The second wife drowned in a swimming accident. Another big policy. The third wife, that's the woman you saw in San Francisco, she's still alive. But she's been trying to divorce him for 2 years. She says he's been slowly poisoning her. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. There's more, Marcus continued. The cybersecurity company is a front. It exists on paper, but it doesn't do any real business. The money he has, it's from the insurance payouts. And Sarah, you have 5 policies on your life totaling $8 million. $8 million. I was worth $8 million dead. The beneficiary, KM Trust, that's Kim Family Trust. It's how he hides the money. Sarah, I think your husband is planning to kill you. The words hung between us like a physical thing. My husband, the man I loved, the man I'd pledged my life to. He was planning to murder me for money. What do I do? My voice sounded far away, like someone else was speaking. We go to the police now today. With what evidence? Insurance policies aren't illegal. Being married to someone else, that's bigamy. But Sarah, this is a pattern. The police will see that. But I was already shaking my head. His third wife went to the police. They didn't believe her. Why would they believe me? Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. Then we get more evidence. We build a case, but you can't go home. It's not safe. I have to, I said. If I disappear, he'll know something's wrong. He'll run, and then he'll never pay for what he's done. Sarah, those women, his wives, they deserve justice. I'm not running. Marcus studied me for a long moment. Then we do this smart. I'll help you, but you follow my lead. Understood? I nodded. First thing, you need to change those insurance policies. Make it so you're worthless to him. Dead, he'll notice. Then we need to move fast. How much do you know about his daily routine? Real routine, not the lies he tells you. Over the next hour, we crafted a plan. It was dangerous, possibly stupid, but it was better than waiting to become David's next victim. I went home that night to the man who was planning to murder me, cooked him dinner, listened to his lies about his day, went to bed beside him, wondering if tonight would be the night he made his move. But I wasn't the same woman who'd been blindly in love. I was awake now, alert, ready, and I was going to make sure David Kim never hurt another woman again. Living with someone who wants you dead is a special kind of torture. Every meal could be poisoned. Every car ride could end in a staged accident. Every night I lay awake wondering if I'd wake up in the morning, but I played my part perfectly. The loving, oblivious wife, while secretly I was documenting everything. Marcus had given me a tiny camera, barely bigger than a button. I planted it in David's office, the one room in our house where I supposedly never went. What I captured there changed everything. Late at night, when he thought I was asleep, David would video call someone. The woman from San Francisco, his legal wife. I'd learned Kim Ni-young. Their conversations were in Korean, but Marcus found someone to translate. She's getting suspicious, David said in one call. I might need to accelerate the timeline. You said you'd have the money by December, Min-young replied. We need it for Lily's treatment. Lily, their daughter, the one I'd seen in San Francisco. I know. Trust me. It'll happen. Just like the others. The others, his dead wives. Spoken about so casually, like items crossed off a grocery list. But it was the next part that made my blood run cold. The hiking trip is next weekend, David said. Accidents happen on mountain trails all the time. She's clumsy. Everyone knows that. He was right. I was clumsy. I'd twisted my ankle twice in the past year. He'd been so caring each time, so concerned. Setting up his alibi. The hiking trip, he'd been planning it for weeks. A romantic getaway to Colorado. Just the two of us. No cell service. No witnesses. I had 4 days. The next morning, as David kissed me goodbye and left for work, I put the final pieces of my plan in motion. First, the insurance policies. I couldn't cancel them, he'd notice immediately, but I could add a clause, a small detail buried in the fine print. If I died under suspicious circumstances, the policies would be frozen pending a full investigation. The insurance company was surprisingly helpful once I explained my concerns. Next, I went to 3 different lawyers and created my own trust. Everything I owned, my savings, my investments, my grandmother's jewelry went into it. The beneficiary, a charity for domestic violence victims. Even if he killed me, David wouldn't get a penny of my money. But I wasn't planning to die. Marcus had connected me with someone else, a woman named Grace who ran an underground network for women in danger. She looked like someone's grandmother, with soft gray hair and gentle eyes, but there was steel underneath. "Honey, I've helped over 100 women disappear," she said when we met. "But you don't want to disappear, do you?" "No, I want him to pay," she smiled. "Good, running lets them win. But we need to be smart about this." Together we crafted a different kind of plan. The night before the hiking trip, I cooked David's favorite meal, opened a bottle of expensive wine, acted excited about our romantic getaway. "I've been thinking," I said over dinner. "We should renew our vows, maybe in Hawaii for our anniversary." David's eyes lit up. "That's a wonderful idea, babe. I want to spend the rest of my life with you," I said, raising my glass. "However long that might be." He clinked his glass against mine. "Forever, Sarah, I promise." I smiled, took a sip of wine, watched him do the same. Within 20 minutes, he was yawning. "Wow, I'm more tired than I thought," he said. "It's been a long week. Why don't you go to bed? I'll clean up." He kissed my forehead and headed upstairs. I waited until I heard snoring, then sent a text from his phone to Minyoung, having second thoughts about might need to postpone. Her response was immediate. "Don't be weak. Think about Lily. We need this." I screenshot the conversation and deleted the messages. Then I packed, not for a hiking trip, for war. The next morning, David woke up groggy from the sleeping pills I'd slipped into his wine. I was already dressed, bags by the door, ready for our adventure. I asked brightly. The drive to Colorado took 12 hours. I insisted on taking my car better gas mileage. I said. David seemed distracted, checking his phone constantly, Minyoung probably wondering about his text. We arrived at the remote cabin as the sun was setting. It was beautiful, isolated, the perfect place for a murder. "I'll start dinner," I said. "Why don't you get the firewood?" While he was outside, I sent a message from my phone to Jake. "Arrived safely. Colorado is beautiful. We'll send photos tomorrow." Then I turned off my phone and hid it. Dinner was quiet. David seemed nervous, fidgety. He kept refilling my wine glass. "You're trying to get me drunk," I laughed. "Just want you relaxed for tomorrow. The trail I picked is challenging." "I trust you," I said, looking him straight in the eyes. "You'd never let anything happen to me." Something flickered across his face. Guilt or anticipation. After dinner, he suggested we sit by the fire. He'd brought Champagne Veuve Clicquot, my favorite. "How thoughtful to us," he said, handing me a glass. I pretended to sip, then accidentally spilled it on my shirt. Oh, clumsy me. "I'll go change." In the bathroom, I poured the rest down the sink. Whatever he'd put in it, I wasn't drinking it. When I came back, he'd refilled my glass. I carried it around, pretending to drink, discreetly emptying it into a potted plant whenever he looked away. "You know what?" I said suddenly. "Let's go for a walk. Look at the stars now. It's dark. Come on, it'll be romantic." He couldn't say no without seeming suspicious. We bundled up and headed outside. The mountain air was crisp, cold. The stars were brilliant. Under different circumstances, it would have been magical. We walked along a path that skirted the edge of a steep drop. David stayed close to me, too close. "Careful," he kept saying. "The edge is unstable." "I know," I thought. "That's why I chose this path." When we reached a particularly narrow section, I stopped. "David, I need to tell you something." He turned to face me, and in the moonlight I could see him tense. "Ready?" "I know," I said simply. "Know what?" But his hand was already moving toward my arm. "Everything, Minyoung, Lily, your other wives. The insurance policies." His face went through a series of transformations. Surprise, fear, then a cold rage I'd never seen before. "You stupid." He lunged for me, but I was ready. I sidestepped, using his momentum against him. He stumbled, caught himself at the edge. "Careful," I said. "The edge is unstable, Sarah." "Wait, let me explain. It's not what you think. Really, you're not planning to push me off this cliff. Make it look like an accident. You don't understand. Lily is sick. She needs treatment, experimental therapy that costs millions. I didn't want to do this, but say you married women and murdered them. That was your solution. I never meant for it to go this far. The first time really was an accident, but then the insurance money, and Minyoung said if I loved Lily, I'd do whatever it took. And I was next." He didn't deny it. "I do care about you, Sarah. This isn't personal." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Not personal. You were going to murder me, and it's not personal. You wouldn't understand. You don't have children. You don't know what it's like to watch your child suffer." "You're right. I don't. But I know what it's like to love someone, to trust them completely, and to have them betray that trust in the worst possible way." He took a step toward me. I took a step back. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to confess everything. The murders, the fraud, all of it. Or what, you'll push me off this cliff. You don't have it in you. Sarah, you're too good." "You're right. I am too good. That's why I'm not going to kill you." I pulled out my phone, not the one I'd hidden, but a second one Grace had given me. "But I have been recording this entire conversation, and it's been live streaming to a cloud server. along with videos from your office, your calls with Min Young, everything." His face went white. "You're bluffing." I played back his confession about the first wife's accident. His own voice, clear as day. "The police are already on their way. Marcus, you remember Marcus? He's been working with them, building a case. You're going to prison, David, for a very long time. Min Young will be arrested to conspiracy to commit murder, but she'll probably get a deal if she testifies against you." "Lily, what about Lily? What about her? Did you think about her when you were planning to murder me, when you murdered those other women? They probably had families too, people who loved them in the distance." I could see flashlights, hear voices, the police, making their way up the trail. David looked around wildly, like a trapped animal. For a moment I thought he might actually jump. Part of me almost hoped he would. It would be easier, cleaner, but he didn't. He sank to his knees in the dirt, all the fight going out of him. "I just wanted to save my daughter," he whispered. "Then you should have found a legal way to do it," I said. "Not built a life on the bodies of innocent women." The police arrived then. I watched as they cuffed him, read him his rights. He looked back at me once as they led him away. "I did love you," he said. "That part wasn't a lie." "Yes, it was," I replied. "You don't kill people you love." The aftermath was surreal. Months of police interviews, trials, media attention. The story made national news. Black Widow's husband, the man who married for murder, Min Young, did get a deal. Testified that David had killed his first 2 wives and was planning to kill me. She claimed she'd been forced to go along with it, that he'd threatened her and Lily. I didn't believe her, but it wasn't my call. David got life without parole. During the sentencing, they read the names of his victims: Rebecca Kim, Jennifer Park, and almost Sarah Chen. But I wasn't a victim, I was a survivor. The insurance companies launched their own investigations. The families of his previous wives finally got answers, closure. They filed civil suits ensuring that any money David had hidden would go to them, not to him or Min. As for Lily, that was the hardest part. She was innocent in all this, a sick little girl whose parents had chosen murder over morality. A fund was set up for her medical treatment, money donated by people touched by the story. I contributed anonymously. She wasn't responsible for her parents' crimes. Jake stayed with me through it all. My rock, my protector. I knew something was off about him. He said one day, "I should have pushed harder." "You did what you could," I told him. "I'm the one who married him. You loved him." That's not a crime, but it felt like one. Every day I woke up angry at myself for being so blind, so trusting. How could I not have seen the signs? How could I have shared a bed with a murderer and never suspected? Therapy helped. Dr. Patricia Chen, no relation, thankfully specialized in trauma survivors. She taught me that predators like David are experts at deception. That's what makes them dangerous. "He studied you," she explained during one of our sessions. "He learned exactly what you wanted, what you needed, and he became that person. You weren't stupid, Sarah, you were human." Slowly, painfully, I started to believe her. The brownstone in Lincoln Park had to go. Too many memories, too many ghosts. I sold it and moved to a loft in the West Loop. Modern, minimal, nothing like the home I'd shared with David. This was my space, my fresh start. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into it with renewed energy. My firm had been incredibly supportive throughout the trial, and within a year I was promoted to vice president. The scared, broken woman who'd discovered her husband's betrayal was gone. In her place was someone stronger, harder, more aware. But the nightmares remained. Dreams where David pushed me off that cliff, where I wasn't fast enough, smart enough, where I drank the poisoned champagne and never woke up. 6 months after David's sentencing, I received a letter. The return address was from Oregon. "Dear Sarah," it began. "My name is Amanda Park. I'm Jennifer Park's sister. Jennifer, David's second wife, the one who drowned." I almost didn't read further, but something made me continue. "I wanted to thank you. For years I knew something was wrong about Jennifer's death. She was an excellent swimmer. The idea that she just drowned in their pool never made sense, but the police ruled it an accident, and David was so convincing in his grief. When I suggested foul play, even my own family thought I was being paranoid, unable to accept a tragic accident. Your case gave Jennifer justice." The police reopened her investigation. They found evidence that David had drugged her before she went swimming. Her death is now officially ruled a homicide. But more than that, you gave me peace. I spent 5 years thinking I was crazy. Thank you for being brave enough to expose him. Thank you for surviving. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Jennifer had a sister who loved her, who knew something was wrong, who fought for the truth, even when no one believed her. I wrote back immediately. Amanda and I met for coffee 2 weeks later. She looked like her sister, the same delicate features I'd seen in photographs during the trial. "Tell me about Jennifer," I said. Amanda smiled, a sad, beautiful smile. She was brilliant, a marine biologist. She studied coral reef ecosystems. David met her at a conference in Miami. He swept her off her feet, a romantic businessman who was fascinated by her work. The same playbook, different woman. They were married for 3 years before she died. Toward the end, She told me she was thinking of leaving him. She'd found some financial discrepancies, thought he might be embezzling from his company. I wonder if that's why he killed her sooner than he planned. The life insurance policy was only $1 million for her, right? I asked. Amanda nodded. Rebecca, his first wife, had $2 million. You had $8 million. He was escalating, getting greedy, or more desperate. Lily's treatments were getting more expensive. We sat in silence for a moment, two women connected by the man who'd tried to destroy us both. How do you move on from this? Amanda asked finally. How do you trust anyone again? I don't know, I admitted. I'm still figuring that out. But meeting Amanda helped. Over the following months, we became friends. Real friends. We started a support group for families of murder victims, meeting twice a month at a community center downtown. Sometimes there were 3 of us, sometimes 15, all connected by loss, by betrayal, by the long road to healing. A year after David's conviction, I received another unexpected contact, an email from Min Young. My first instinct was to delete it, but curiosity won. Sarah, I know you have no reason to read this, let alone believe anything I say, but I need you to know the truth. Not the version I told the police to save myself, but the real truth. I met David 12 years ago in Seoul. I was 22, working as a translator. He was charismatic, successful, everything I thought I wanted. We married quickly, too quickly. Within 6 months I was pregnant with Lily. The first time he hit me I was 3 months pregnant. I'd questioned a business expense. He apologized profusely, said it would never happen again. It happened again 2 weeks later. By the time Lily was born, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. But David controlled everything, our money, my passport, my life. And then Lily got sick. Childhood leukemia. The doctors in Korea said she needed treatment available only in America. David said he'd handle it, that he'd get the money. I didn't ask how. I didn't want to know. When he told me about Rebecca, that her death had been an accident but the insurance money would save Lily, I believed him because I needed to. I convinced myself he was telling the truth. Jennifer's death. I suspected, but I was a coward. I chose my daughter's life over the truth. When he started talking about you, I knew what was coming. I told myself I'd stop him. I'd go to the police, but I never did. Lily needed another round of treatment and I was weak. You saved yourself. And by doing so, you saved me from becoming a murderer too, because that's what I would have been, an accomplice to your death. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm serving my sentence 7 years for conspiracy and obstruction, and every day I live with the knowledge that I could have stopped him and didn't. Lily is with my parents in Korea now. The fund that was set up is paying for her treatment. She's in remission. She asks about her father sometimes. I don't know what to tell her. I'm sorry. I know those words are meaningless, but they're all I have. Min Young. I stared at the email for a long time. Part of me hated her. She'd known, or at least suspected, and she'd done nothing. Her silence had almost cost me my life. But another part of me understood. Desperation makes people do terrible things. The love of a parent for a dying child can twist morality into unrecognizable shapes. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready to offer forgiveness, and I wasn't sure I'd ever be. But I saved the email. Maybe someday I'd find it in myself to reply. You should try dating, my therapist suggested during one session, 18 months after David's arrest. I laughed. Absolutely not. Sarah, you can't let him take that from you. The possibility of love, of connection. He didn't take it. I'm choosing not to date. There's a difference. Dr. Chen smiled. Is there? The truth was, I was terrified. How could I trust my judgment again? I'd thought David was perfect, and he'd been a monster. What if I made the same mistake twice? But my friends, emboldened by my therapist's suggestion, had other ideas. They set up a dating profile for me without permission just to see what's out there. They claimed. I was furious until I saw the messages. Dozens of men, some kind, some creepy, all interested in getting to know me. It was overwhelming and oddly flattering. Just coffee, my friend Rachel urged. One coffee with one guy. If it's terrible, you never have to do it again. His name was Michael Torres. He was a high school history teacher, divorced, no kids. His profile picture showed a man with kind eyes and a slightly crooked smile. Not conventionally handsome, but appealing in an authentic way. We met at a Starbucks in Lincoln Square. I arrived early, scoping out exits, sitting where I could see the door. Old habits from my time with David. Michael was exactly like his pictures. No catfishing, no deception. He ordered a plain black coffee and apologized for being 5 minutes late. I'm Mr. Torres at school, he said with that crooked smile. The kids think being 5 minutes late is fashionably on time. I'm trying to break the habit. I found myself relaxing slightly. What grade do you teach? 11th grade US history. Also sponsored the debate club, which means I spend a lot of Friday nights listening to teenagers argue about everything from school lunch to foreign policy. Sounds exhausting. It's the best job in the world. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about his students, his divorce amicable, they'd simply grown apart, his passion for Civil War history. I told him about my work, carefully editing around the David-shaped hole in my recent past. Can I ask you something? He said as we were leaving. And you can tell me it's none of my business. Okay, you've seemed on edge this whole time, like you're waiting for something bad to happen. Did I do something wrong? I considered lying. But there was something about his directness that demanded honesty. No, you've been great. I'm just ... I'm coming out of a really bad situation. This is my first date in a long time, and I'm a little rusty. Bad breakup. You could say that. He nodded slowly. Well, for what it's worth, you've been great company. And if you'd ever like to do this again, coffee, no pressure. Just two people talking, I'd like that. I surprised myself by saying yes. Michael and I went slowly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates, which turned into walks along the lakefront. He never pushed, never demanded more than I was ready to give. 2 months in, I told him about David. Not everything that was too much for a second date confession, but the basics. I'd been married. My husband had been abusive. I'd barely escaped. Michael listened without interruption. When I finished, he simply said, "Thank you for trusting me with that. I can't imagine how hard it was to go through. No prying questions. No morbid curiosity. Just simple empathy. Can I tell you something?" he asked. Of course. My ex-wife. The reason we divorced, she had an affair. For 6 months, she was seeing someone else while I thought everything was fine. When I found out, it destroyed me. Not just the betrayal, but the fact that I'd been so oblivious. I questioned everything about myself. How did you get past it? Therapy, time, and eventually accepting that her choices weren't a reflection on me. She made a decision to lie, to cheat. That was on her, not me. Just like what your ex did, that was on him, not you. It was exactly what I needed to hear. 6 months into our relationship, Michael met Jake. I'd been nervous about it. My brother was incredibly protective after everything that had happened, but the two of them hit it off immediately, bonding over Chicago sports and terrible action movies. He's good people, Jake told me later. Not like, he's genuine. How can you tell? Because he looks at you like you're a person, not a possession. And when you talk, he actually listens, instead of waiting for his turn to speak. The small things. That's what I'd missed with David. All the small signs that something was wrong. With Michael, the small things were right. He remembered my coffee order. He asked about my day and actually cared about the answer. When I had a bad day at work, he brought over Thai food and listened to me vent. When I had nightmares about David, he held me without asking for explanations. "I love you," he said one evening. 6 months into our relationship, we were at his apartment, cooking dinner together. He said it casually, while chopping vegetables, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I froze. "Michael ... You don't have to say it back," he said quickly. "I just wanted you to know. No pressure, no expectations, just the truth." I put down my own knife and turned to face him. "I want to say it back. I think I do love you, but I'm scared of what? Of being wrong again, of trusting the wrong person, of..." He kissed me. Gentle, sweet, asking nothing. "Take your time," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." 2 years after his conviction, David requested to see me. The prison sent an official request. He wanted me added to his visitor list. My first instinct was to refuse. Why would I want to see him? What could he possibly have to say? But Dr. Chen thought it might be therapeutic. Closure, if you want it. Or simply seeing him powerless behind bars. Sometimes that helps. I discussed it with Michael. "If you want to go, I support you," he said. "But only if you're sure. You don't owe him anything." I thought about it for 2 weeks. Then I said yes. The prison was exactly what I expected: gray, depressing, smelling of industrial cleaner and despair. I went through security, was patted down, had my ID checked multiple times. When they brought David into the visiting room, I almost didn't recognize him. He'd aged a decade in 2 years. His salt and pepper hair was now mostly gray. He'd lost weight. The polished businessman I'd married was gone. In his place was a tired, broken man in an orange jumpsuit. "Sarah," his voice cracked. "Thank you for coming." I didn't respond, just sat there, waiting. "I know sorry isn't enough," he continued. "I know nothing I say can undo what I did, but I wanted you to hear it from me. I'm sorry for everything." "Why did you want to see me, David?" "Because you deserved better. You deserved the truth. The man you fell in love with, that was real. Sarah, that part of me existed. It was just buried under so much lies and desperation that I could unfind my way back to it. Is this supposed to make me feel better? No, I just... I think about you every day, about what I took from you. Your trust, your innocence, your belief in love. I destroyed that. You didn't destroy it," I said. "You damaged it, but I'm rebuilding." He looked up, surprised. "You're seeing someone? That's none of your business." "You're right. I'm sorry." He paused. "Is he good to you?" "Yes." David nodded slowly. "Good, that's good. You deserve that." We sat in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question I'd been holding on to for 2 years. "Did you ever really love me? Even a little bit?" He closed his eyes. "Yes, God help me. Yes, that's what made it so hard. With Rebecca and Jennifer, it was just business. Cold, calculated. But with you, I fell for you, Sarah. Really fell. And I hated myself for what I was planning to do. But you were going to do it anyway." Lily was dying. Min Young said if I loved my daughter I'd do whatever it took, and I was weak. I chose money over morality, over you, over everything. How is Lily? In remission. Last I heard, Minung's parents send updates through my lawyer. She's healthy, happy. She doesn't know what her father did. That's probably for the best. Yeah, he looked at me, really looked at me. I've thought a lot about what you said on that mountain, about the other women having families who loved them. You were right. I was so focused on my own daughter's pain that I didn't think about the pain I was causing everyone else. A bit late for that realization. I know I'm not asking for forgiveness, Sarah. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What I did, what I am. And I am going to spend the rest of my life making sure everyone in here knows what happens when you hurt women. I teach a class now helping other inmates recognize patterns of abuse in their own behavior. I almost laughed. You think that makes up for it? No, nothing makes up for it. But it's something. It's all I have. I stood up. I'm glad Lily's okay. Truly, she's innocent in all this. But you deserve everything that's happened to you and more. I know. Goodbye, David. Sarah, wait. I turned back. Are you happy with your life now? I thought about Michael, about my friends, my career, the support group, all the pieces of my new life I'd built from the ashes of the old one. I'm getting there, I said. Then I walked out and didn't look back. I'm sitting in my home office in Oak Park, the tree-lined suburb Michael and I moved to 2 years ago. Our wedding photo sits on my desk, a small ceremony in Grant Park, just family and close friends. My second wedding was nothing like my first. It was real, honest, imperfect, perfect. There's another photo next to it, a sonogram. We're expecting our first child in 4 months. A girl Michael wants to name her Grace, after the woman who helped save my life. I still have bad days. Anniversaries of the trial, of that night on the mountain, of the day I discovered David's fake office. But the good days outnumber the bad now. Amanda and I still meet monthly. Our support group has grown. We've helped over 100 people now. Some are victims of attempted murder, like me. Others are dealing with fraud, betrayal, abuse. We listen to each other. We validate each other's pain. We help each other heal. Minyoung was released last year, after serving 5 years. She sent me a letter, asking if I'd ever be willing to meet. I haven't responded yet, maybe someday, but I'm not ready. David is still in prison. He'll die there. Sometimes I feel guilty that I don't feel worse about that, but Dr. Chen says that's normal. You're allowed to be glad that someone who tried to kill you is locked away, she reminds me. My life now is quiet, ordinary, beautiful in its simplicity. I go to work, come home to my husband, plan for our daughter's arrival. I have Sunday dinners with my parents. I watch Jake's kids on weekends. I live, and sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment on the mountain. The choice I made not to push David off that cliff, not to become like him. I think about how close I came to losing everything, my life, my sanity, my ability to trust and love again. But I didn't lose it. I survived. More than that, I've thrived. The man I married was wrong for me in every possible way. He was a monster, a murderer, a liar, but he didn't break me. He tried, but I was stronger than he expected. I'm Sarah Mitchell-Torres, now mother-to-be, wife, survivor. And I'm writing this story not as a victim but as a warning and a promise. A warning. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't ignore the red flags, no matter how small they seem. And a promise. If you're reading this because you're in a situation like mine, know that there's a way out. It won't be easy. It might be terrifying, but you're stronger than you know. You can survive this. You can rebuild. You can live. And that, in the end, is the best revenge of all.